Born from a Kickstarter project, the Oleap Pilot caught our eye. How does it stack up against the Shokz OpenComm? Let's break it down. Goedendag, we're DHRME, dude having real microphone expectations. Looks may deceive you with these almost identical looking headphones, but only the Shokz has a bone conduction style design. The Oleap are open ear headphones, which is a fancy way of saying that there are tiny speakers pointed towards your ears. Both have their own unique advantages, which we'll come to in a bit. But let's start with the similarities. Both come with a boom arm mic that can swivel up and down. So you'll be rocking that 90s Wall Street banker look in no time. Say what you will, but you can't beat the physics of having the mic closer to your mouth. Speaking of Wall Street bankers, the Shokz will set you back $160, whereas the Oleap Pilot will retail for $129 once its $79 Kickstarter price is over. Latest links will be in the links in the description.
Before we talk about phone calls, the marketing material on the Oleap shows off saying the Pilot is the best at calls and sound. And for sound, the Oleap Pilot actually is surprisingly good. There is a lot of clean sub bass here, and we didn't know this was possible with open ears, but here we are. Now, when we say good, these are good for this category. For music without too much challenge like pop and jazz, we found that these were fine and actually quite enjoyable. The difference has been narrowed down compared to in-ears for sure, but there are some areas where it's not perfect. Especially the mids and the low treble have a tinny nature. And if you listen to metal on these, the distortion is going to have its own distortion. Interestingly, the open nature of the headphones also lends itself to a very wide soundstage because it's literally wider. Even the Shokz does well for bone conduction, but the sound of the Pilot is definitely richer and nicer just in every single way. Since there's no app, you can't manually EQ any of these headsets. The Shokz can change EQ if you hold down the volume buttons while listening to music, and it looks like there are two presets, a flat and a bassier one. We like the bassier one, but if the bone conduction vibrations get too much for you, then we can totally understand if you switch over to the flatter EQ.
Yeah, about noise cancelling. Yeah, no. What did you expect? There is no penetration to create any cancellation. But there is what Oleap calls 50 dB ENC. ENC stands for Environmental Noise Cancellation. And why is that special? Because it's meant to take your phone call gain to the next level by suppressing background noises up to 50 decibels. Most headphones or earbuds market something similar when it comes to their microphones, so it's no surprise that Shokz also says it has a noise cancelling microphone. Let's be real, the whole unique selling point of the Pilot or OpenComm is for calls, so that makes sense. Let's talk about those microphones and if they're any good. In true DHRME fashion, let's test the microphones on these headphones, and for good measure, we also threw in the Shokz Open Run Pro. See you on the other side where we'll give you our conclusion.
All right, this is the Oleap Pilot. Pop, pop, popsicle. Pop, pop, popsicle. Pop, pop, popsicle. Ice, ice, icicle. Test, testing. 1, 2, 3.
Alright guys, a boom arm mic test on the Shokz OpenComm. Pop, pop, popsicle. Pop, pop, popsicle. Pop, pop, popsicle. Ice, ice, icicle. Testing. 1, 2, 3. Alright guys, this is a quiet condition with the Shokz OpenComm. Pop pop popsicle, ice ice icicle, testing, 1, 2, 3. Pop pop popsicle, ice ice icicle, testing, 1, 2, 3. Quiet conditions with the Shokz Open Run Pro. Pop pop popsicle, ice ice icicle, testing, 1, 2, 3. Pop pop popsicle, ice ice icicle, testing, 1, 2, 3. Quiet conditions with the Oleap Pilot. Pop pop popsicle, ice ice icicle, testing, 1, 2, 3. Pop pop popsicle, ice ice icicle, testing, 1, 2, 3. Outdoors with the Shokz OpenComm noisy environment. Pop pop popsicle, ice ice icicle, testing, 1, 2, 3. Pop pop popsicle, ice ice icicle, testing, 1, 2, 3. Outdoor tests with the Shokz Open Run Pro noisy environment. Pop pop popsicle, ice ice icicle, testing, 1, 2, 3. Pop pop popsicle, ice ice icicle, testing, 1, 2, 3. Outdoors with cars in the background noisy test on the Oleap Pilot. Pop pop popsicle, ice ice icicle, testing, 1, 2, 3. Pop pop popsicle, ice ice icicle, testing, 1, 2, 3. Windy conditions on a bike with the Shokz OpenComm. Pop pop popsicle, ice icicle, testing, 1 2 3. Pop pop popsicle, ice icicle, testing, 1 2 3. Outdoors on a bike, windy conditions, slightly windy conditions, with the Shokz OpenComm. Pop pop popsicle, ice icicle, testing, 1 2 3. Pop pop popsicle, ice icicle, testing, 1 2 3. This is a windy test on a bike for the Oleap Pilot with a pop filter. Pop pop popsicle, ice icicle, testing, 1 2 3. Pop pop popsicle, ice icicle, testing, 1 2 3. Outdoors, windy conditions on a bike, Oleap Pilot without a pop filter. Pop pop popsicle, ice icicle, testing, 1 2 3. Pop pop popsicle, ice icicle, testing, 1 2 3. All right, guys. First off, the boom mics. The Oleap really reduces its volume when you move the boom mic away from your mouth. So although it doesn't have an automatic mute, you should be fine for temporarily turning down your volume for a cough or a sneeze, but nothing too naughty. The Shokz also does this because physics, but the Oleap tends to be more effective. Now to the 3 conditions, starting with quiet. It's not a tough environmental condition, but it's most likely the condition you'll be using these in, working at home or in the office, doing video calls all day. In quiet conditions, these are great. Moving to the noisy conditions where you hear cars in the background, we start to see clear differences. The Shokz OpenRun Pro is the worst as it pipes in the most amount of background noise. The Oleap Pilot wasn't joking with its 50 decibels environmental noise cancelling, since you barely hear anything in the background. Very impressive. A downside though is that the voice sounds relatively processed and not very natural. The Shokz OpenComm has made a trade-off. You hear somewhat of the cars passing by, but the voice remains more natural and pleasant to listen to. So we prefer the Shokz here. If you find yourself in windy conditions, then it's probably best to leave all 3 at home. The worst is again the Shokz OpenRun Pro. The Oleap Pilot, tested with and without a pop filter, doesn't do a great job either. A lot of disturbance is picked up by the microphone. If we really had to choose one, then it would be the Shokz OpenComm. Not fantastic either, but the least bad. Still picks up wind and disrupts the voice, but is more bearable. The advantage of a physical mic though is that you can shield it using your hand or by turning away from the wind, which should give you a better experience. When it comes to controls, the Oleap has Fachmann written all over them, whereas the Shokz was somewhat disappointing.
Both have a boom arm mic that swivels down and up. Unfortunately, neither will automatically mute the mic based on its position, which some workplace headsets do support.
Both headsets can mute the microphone, but Oleap has a better implementation.
A bright orange button on the right, whereas on the Shokz, you need to hold down the volume up and volume down button for 2 or 3 seconds.
That's almost a two-handed job. Come on, Shokz.
There are dedicated volume buttons on both, though.
But the Oleap wins out again when it comes to integration with video calling applications like Microsoft Teams or Zoom, because you can mute and unmute straight from your headset.
This does not natively mute or unmute either Zoom or Teams, though.
Shokz doesn't do this, but might support it if you have the UC version or buy their wireless adapter.
And Oleap has even included 2 pop filters in the box.
Overall, the Oleap does well and may win over those who value the easy-to-use mute button and integration with applications like Microsoft Teams or Zoom.
But if you're planning to go outdoors with either of these, then the Shokz would be a wiser choice.
A headset with a boom arm mic isn't exactly scoring lots of sex appeal points, so it better be comfortable, right? Mixed feelings here, guys. The Shokz OpenComm, absolutely. The soft rubberized coating, lightweight, and the way the speaker units rest on your cheekbones make them very comfortable. The vibrations are a love it or hate it kind of thing. We don't mind it at all, but we know that some of you find it uncomfortable. The Oleap Pilot was fine for me, but Rohan had a totally different experience.
These were one of probably the most painful headphones I've had on. The speaker units, they rest on my cartilage, causing a lot of discomfort. And this isn't any old discomfort either. The discomfort starts after just 15 minutes. And 1 hour in, it's all pain all the way. The curve around your ears is quite small, making it constantly rest on this part of the cartilage, as I said before. And even though the Pilot is the same weight, The angle and the size makes it that it just hangs around your ears differently from being more back heavy. This meant that the Pilot would hang lower around the back of your head. The headband is also larger than the OpenComm, which causes it to get caught on shirt collars and hoodies, and super annoying. The build quality on both seems to be solid, but the Shokz does look and feel more refined and feels almost as if it was molded from a single piece. The Oleap has certain parts which are rubberized and others are smooth plastic. And if that lack of sex appeal we spoke about earlier didn't faze you and you want to work out in them, then by all means go for it. I mean, how are you going to work out with a boom mic anyway? The Oleap is IPX5 rated and perfectly suitable for most workouts. But if you want to get down and dirty with the headphones, then the Shokz is the only one that provides protection against dust with an IP rating of IP55.
The way you use either of these headsets is with good old buttons. The Oleap has an extra button for muting and unmuting like we said earlier. The multifunction button and volume buttons can be found on the left side for the Oleap as opposed to the right side for the Shokz. Except for the mute button, the Oleap's buttons require a bit of fingering before you find the right button to press. Whereas on the Shokz it's hard to miss. The multifunction button is on the speaker unit and the volume buttons are behind your ear and have a solid click to them. Despite these differences, we had no problems using them, but personally preferred the simplicity of the Shokz. We only missed, yes, you guessed it, that dedicated mute button. The battery life numbers are very different, but bigger isn't always better, right? Right? The Shokz can last 16 hours of talk time compared to 10 hours on the Oleap. And if you're listening to audio, then that's 8 hours on the Shokz versus 16 hours on the Oleap. So if you're going to be calling a lot, then the Shokz looks appealing. But for audio, it's the Oleap. But Oleap has a few things going for it as well. It charges directly with USB-C, so you're not stuck with a proprietary cable. We get it though, for the stronger IP rating, Shokz probably had to do this. Now, both support fast charge, giving you a couple of hours of use from a few minutes of charging. If you want to go fancy, then for $30 more, Oleap gives you a charging stand, a solid paperweight to drop your headset on when you're done using it. We would be able to live without it since we already have so many Type-C chargers lying around anyway. What you will be paying extra for again is a carrying case. For 10 bucks extra, you get a funky origami folding case. Normally we wouldn't be bothered, but the most delicate part of these headsets is that boom mic arm. Shokz thankfully does give you a hard case in the box.
What you will be missing on both is an app, which we were quite surprised about. Now, Shokz has an app for its OpenRun Pro, but it does not support the OpenComm, which means there's no way to configure the controls, see a list of connections. There is, of course, a way to change EQ, but that's not in the app. It's with all those finger gymnastics and buttons that we mentioned earlier in the sound quality section. In both devices, you're stuck with voice-over prompts kind of guiding you, and there's no way to change them to just beeps or pings. The voice on the Shokz actually has a name, Audrey, and Audrey speaks faster than the nameless voice guidance on the Oleap. And the Oleap, it has a lot to say when you power it on. Here, take a look.
Power on. Device 1 connected. Battery high. Talk time about 10 hours. Device 2 connected.
I always join my meetings 2 minutes late now. We briefly alluded to a device list, and luckily there is multi-point on both, so you can stay connected to 2 devices at the same time. On the Shokz, it doesn't come enabled out of the box, so you'll need to run through a few button press combinations to unlock that feature. We do have to say that there were times on the Oleap that the connection wasn't always reliable. We've had a few dropped connections. There's something to complain about the Shokz as well. When you're paired to 2 devices and say you're listening to music on your phone, but you get a notification on your laptop, the music will pause to allow you to hear the notification sound and then resume after it passes. Quite annoying to say the least. The Oleap almost feels like McDonald's at this point. Plenty of add-ons to your already sufficient order. Weird metaphors aside, there is a dongle you can get for $20 extra. It's similar to the UC version of the OpenComm. It'll ensure a more stable connection to your laptop and better integration with Teams, Zoom, etc. We obviously don't have the UC version, but we didn't notice much of a difference with the Oleap. The integration through Bluetooth was perfectly fine.
Okay, let's wrap this up. This style of headphones make a lot of sense as a work from home edition. You're aware of your surroundings, there's no pressure on your crown, nor does it heat up your ears, and they're lightweight. Here's why you would buy the Oleap Pilot over the Shokz OpenComm. You want better sound quality for enjoying your music? You need all the call controls your fuckman heart desires, especially a single dedicated mute button. You want better integration with Microsoft Teams and Zoom. You want better battery life for listening to audio. You appreciate the de facto USB-C charging standard. You want the ability to buy accessories like a dongle, case, or charging stand. You want to save yourself a couple of tenors. And here's why you would buy the Shokz OpenComm over the Oleap Pilot. You want a more comfortable design with a shorter neckband. You want to do some extreme sports and need the IP55 rating. You want better battery life for talk time. You want the slight edge in microphone quality and connection reliability. You've been shocked about pilots leaping in the open, and we've been DHRME. Namaste.